Hello and welcome to RE7 Talks. Today, two new guests from South Africa and the UK, Dewan and Justin from Kaomi Marketing. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us on your podcast.
Yeah.
Glad to have you here. Before we dive in, can you tell us a bit more about Kaomi Marketing? How many employees? When did you start it? What you are doing? And then we dive in directly in our topic that you can see already here in the footer about agency leadership.
Yeah, perfect. I'll start and Justin can continue from there.
All right.
But yeah, Kaomi Marketing was started by the original founder back in 2015. It was more looking around the dev of websites and stuff. And then he realized he needed more of a performance marketing side. So in 2017, I joined and we started pushing heavily into the Google ad space. That was our main focus, specifically in South Africa as well. In running brands, we realized that paid search wasn't enough. And so we started doing a lot more on the display side, introducing video, and then dabbling in the SEO side, because obviously it goes hand in hand with the organic and paid. That then got us a lot into tracking and attribution and all those issues, which then we added analytics, paid media from a Meta social media paid ads came into play, and a few of the other channels. And so our offering at the end of the day right now is focused around paid media, which is Google ads, Bing ads, Meta ads, TikTok ads, all the ads you can think of in the social space, as well as SEO with an analytics focus around CRM systems, closed loops, all of that, really just connecting the data and reporting together. Our team sits primarily in Cape Town, which is where Justin's based, and we're sitting at a team of 13 now. That's changed as we've needed more. We've pushed up and pushed down. We've tried various different models of consulting, stay-at-home moms, which is an interesting concept as well, to get extra capacity of a few hours. So we've tried a few things. We've got a really core team at the moment, and we feel like we're really cohesive at the moment. And we really understand our product offering extremely well, our service offering, who we service, how we service them, and that's what's got us to this point and the best outcome we've had to date. Justin?
Yeah, there's not much else to add to that. I think. Yeah, I mean, really to focus on maybe some of the specifics is obviously that's our service offering. But what Dewan and I have really enjoyed doing is really bringing the right people into the right positions. That's been massively key for us. It's very difficult to hire the right people and to keep the right people. And when you get that right, then you really are onto something special. And that's what we've been building for the last few years. Not only do we service those offerings, but it's how you service them. You service them with, and what kind of clients you get.
I see. I mean, since when are you on the market? When did the Kaomi marketing journey start?
We're in 2017 was our core focus. At the start of the year, we really started pushing, got really serious about it. Both my co-founder and I resigned from the agencies we're in and put all of our efforts and attention from the 1st of Feb 2017 into Kaomi.
I see. And Justin mentioned it already. That's really important to attract the right people and so on. And then from this, I think we can dive directly in the topic that we wanted to discuss a bit more today was mastering agency leadership.
Yeah.
So I think this is a key in order to keep employees in your company and also to keep them engaged. What is your secret, or how do you see it, the leadership at Kaomi Marketing? How do you do it?
Yeah, so maybe I can start there. So there is no secret. It takes hard work. It requires dedication, and it requires the right kind of leaders. So what I mean by that is I can't flick a switch or click my fingers and say, we're going to be a great leader today. Great leaders or leadership and teams specifically, great leaders are nothing without good teams. But all of these fundamental blocks are individual blocks that take time, they take effort, they take sweat, they take hard times, they take good times. So effectively what I'm saying is it requires experience, and it requires being able to synthesize the correct information about previous leaders you've worked under. And once you're able to get into a position where you can take that information that you really appreciated and helped you and disseminate away from, management style or leadership that was ineffective, that is the route on how you effectively start building leadership success, and how Dewan and I have found a really great partnership. We're very different, but that's the beauty of why we work so well together. Number one, you have to be, I guess, a good person, right? You got to be genuinely interested in some other human being and their success. Number two, you genuinely have to work with a smart, very impressive individual who really has the best intentions for other people. I'm lucky to find that in Dewan. So when you believe in an ethos, it's easy to build from there. As long as at the core, when you get back to it, and times are tough and times are good, at the core of it, you always come back to the reality of what you guys are, which is the truth. And if the truth is, I care about people, I want to work hard, and I want to achieve for everybody, that's a good structure and a good foundation for leadership. Anything else, Jen?
Yeah, I think just to expand on what Justin was saying, obviously working with your team is extremely important, understanding how they work, all of those kinds of things. But in terms of the leadership that I've really appreciated and how I think I've pushed in really well in Kaomi is when Justin came in on board. Having somebody who backs you, completely trusts you. When he goes on leave, I can cover. When I go on leave, he can cover. It's synergistic. We don't even feel it. We don't have to say, hey, can you cover this? Can you do this? It's just ebbs and flows where I leave off, he picks up. And that's extremely important. I mean, I've often spoken to some leaders, specifically digital marketing agency leaders inside the guided group that I'm specifically in. And the guys that lead on their own find it extremely hard. You have to push in. Everything relies on you. If you don't do it, if you don't move it forward, nothing moves forward. But having an extremely healthy and good relationship, and does help that Justin and I also are really good friends, that really helps us push into this. And the team feels it. The team feels we're aligned. The team feels supported. The team feels like they can go to Justin or myself, which I think when I think of how do you measure success, or how do you measure a successful team, it's when the team understands that they support it. It's when the team understands that they can come speak to you at any point. It's when the team understands that they're in a unit, and that at any stage they know how it works, who it works. They feel comfortable to come speak to you, because it's all fair and well saying they feel supported. What does support look like? Support looks like they're able to put their hand up today and say, guys, I actually can't do this, or I'm not feeling this, or I need some help here. And they are willing to do that without you having to put process or procedure in place on how to address that. They're able to come to you person to person, which is how I feel leadership is. It's human to human. And they're able to address it with you. And they feel comfortable with Justin and I coming to either or both of us, and they feel like they can get something solved or sorted. And they feel like we always have their best interest at heart, which is one of the main focuses that Justin and I have had, especially going into this year, and really trying to show the appreciation for having such a strong team.
Yeah, that makes totally sense for me. And I think there's also this trust that you need. So what you mentioned, that they can come, doesn't matter, they can come to you, Dewan, or Justin, they can ask you, and there's the trust there. So you created this of space of trust. And what I also found interesting, I mean, before you started with Kaomi, so how did you develop your leadership skills? Did you read any books? Can you recommend something, or you worked before in a corporation with a leading position, or how did this come to you, this leadership skill? Because normally it doesn't grow on trees, so somehow you need to grow into this, I guess.
Yeah. Justin, do you want to start? I'll go after you.
Cool. Happy with that. Yeah, so it's very interesting. I think that Dewan and I have very good experience in the field, digital marketing specifically. So it started from the bottom, being able to talk with conviction requires hard work. It requires being in the seat that someone else is in, be it PPC, SEO, content, whatever that looks like. Being in that seat gives you conviction and understanding about what's actually required. So when you can be genuine, right, it gives you the ability to really empathize with the position, with the requirements, with the skills required, with the pressures required. And I think that is invaluable. So my specific journey was in agencies, other agencies in South Africa who worked on local and international clients, small and absolutely huge clients. And through that, it started out for paid media for me, which was PPC. And effectively, I went through the ranks, just getting my, the notches on the belt on big accounts, stressful accounts, sleepless nights, are budgets working or not working? And then also developing the acumen to be able to work effectively with strong teams. So you have to have different skill sets to work with other team members and get the best out of them. And then how do you kind of take the responsibility, or do you put up your hand and say, I want to take the responsibility? And I think that your characteristics start to show through there. And there's no right or wrong answer. It's just the path you take. And then second to that, my specific one was trying to get skills outside of PPC, which was trying to learn SEO. It was trying to learn the bigger digital marketing scope in terms of content or strategy, craft. And once you start to holistically take an interest in these things, you don't become a super specialist anymore. You become a holistic specialist, which really helps Dewan and I from our positions now, because we don't have PPC teams. We have PPC, analytics, content, dev, and SEO teams. So we have to effectively be able to, speak the language and be able to manage those people effectively. And it goes through the years, right? And the hard yards of each of those divisions. And effectively, from my side, that's effectively how I find myself in this position. And yeah, over to you, Dewan.
Cool. Yeah. So my side, I didn't actually start in a digital marketing agency. I was in a corporate company back in the day, and there was various managers across various different levels, which going through it and working in it was difficult. And you often thought, like, why am I even doing this? But in hindsight, it actually taught me a lot about the various styles that you can deal with and have to work with, good and bad. It's great to see both sides. I then obviously did a whole lot of studies. I got an honors degree, and that taught me the theory of management, which is obviously always easier reading in a book how amazing teams will be and how cohesive they are if you do these 3 points, and then you do those 3 points and it doesn't work that way because people are different. So I got the theory, I got the experience, and I went into an agency, quite a big agency as well, global one, like Justin, working on various different accounts, both in the UK and US, and then moved to the South African part of the business. So I got quite a well-rounded agency experience, working with different departments, different people within inside the company across different geos, which was really interesting. And that kind of showed me what I did and didn't like about it, how I liked to work, how other people reacted to these different levels as well. And that, I would say, probably was the most amount of development that I got. Then obviously starting Kaomi, we started just with my co-founder and myself for, I think, the first year and a half, and really just pushing into it before we got our first staff member. Once we did get that staff member, she fitted in really well. We had worked with her previously, so that was great. But then came people we hadn't worked with before, and we started building the team, having to do the interview process and bringing people on, which we can touch on our current process now that Justin's heading up and doing an extremely good job on. But in the early days, it was just my co-founder and myself doing these interviews, finding people on the internet, finding people from different agencies, and then bringing them into a culture that wasn't necessarily developed because it was just our way of working, which was the culture. And so, I would say that probably took us to year 4 or 5. And then we really started to feel it. It really started to get to a point where we had a whole lot of people that were kind of pulling in different directions because they had come from different agencies. Some had been like churning through 10 different agencies. Some had sat in one agency for 10 years. So you had people with various different expectations, different levels of understanding. And we were a remote agency at the time. We then got an office, COVID hit, and we went back to remote. And so we've been through quite a journey to get to a point. We worked with a really good business coach who had a lot of HR skills as well, who helped us develop that side. We hired an internal HR manager who does internal recruitment, HR policies, and various other tasks, which has been amazing too. But as we've gone through, we've had to adjust and adapt to each situation. And that's where, again, it goes back to having Justin with me and makes it so much easier to adjust to it, because we are quite different people. And the way that we manage is different. The way that we expect things is different. And so I would say when my shortfalls are, he's extremely strong with it, and vice versa. And so we're able to pull on. And I would say without an ego, we don't have egos. So it's like, if something doesn't work, it's like, cool, Justin, tag, you're in. We need this to help. We need you to do this. We need you to push in. He's more than willing to do it, because he knows I'd only come to him if it was something that was required or something serious, because we've got that trust already set up. And then he gets involved, sorts out the issue. We're able to move forward. Everything stays strong. And again, vice versa, where he needs my help, I'll jump in gladly, make sure it's working. And so that kind of tag team methodology has really helped. And so having this whole process, having all this experience now in running an agency for 8-9 years, I think it's got us to a point where we understand the importance of certain things. We understand the value of certain things more than others, because they count down the line. And that's got us to a point where I think we're actually quite strong in leading a team and finding new people to incorporate into a team, as well as having quite a holistic management style from being underneath and involved in so many different things.
Yeah, maybe I can just add to that. I mean, it sparked an idea in me, and it was effectively, it comes down to trust. So Dewan and I trust each other, so I want Dewan's opinion. It's not like I need to tick this off because I need it. I genuinely pull the guy up and I want your thoughts, because like, I trust you that if I'm missing something, I've got a better picture. And I think Dewan said it well, we don't have egos. The only thing we want is a correct decision. Doesn't matter if it's my idea or if it's Dewan's idea. We praise hard, and we correct people behind closed doors. But you praise hard, that's the only thing that you do. You can give credit where credit is due, but I think it comes down to the simple principle of trust. So you trust each other, you get the right opinion, and you genuinely want to like that person, because you genuinely want to pick up the phone at 11 o'clock at night and say, Dewan, I want to ask you something. And it should come off as a kind of like a, how do I say, like a trust that is an honor, right? Because someone wants to phone you. They want to pick up that phone. And I think that is a lot of what we have created, which, in my opinion, from a leadership perspective, naturally filters down to the team in terms of trust.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I mean, you said correct decision. I would also say like a fair decision, because if it's like something that happened in the past, I mean, you spoke about the history that you got now from leadership. So something that happened the first time is something really new for you. But when it happens again after and after, you know better how to react or what did you wrong. You can learn from it, you can improve it, you can make another decision. And for me, it's always important with my employee or with my team to make a fair decision, because everybody is a bit biased. I mean, I'm also working remotely mainly. I'm not so often in the office. Others that work in the office have maybe a different point of view, And this is, I think, also like quite challenging.
Yeah.
You mentioned before you both are different leaderships. Can you give me examples where you see that? What are the difference between your leadership styles?
Yeah, it's a good question, actually. I don't know if we've nailed down exactly what it's like, but I think there's a lot of similarity that Dewan and I want to be fair and get to the right answer. I think the way we interpret information comes in, and how we synthesize information out is very different. So I think that there are different elements, in terms of, operational ways of doing business and maybe dealing with things in terms of structures. And sometimes it requires a different hand. It requires a conversation. It requires just having a non-formal chat. And so I think, to be honest, Dewan and I have a very good balance in either of us actually now. It's not one or the other. I'm not operationally inclined without any feelings, and Dewan is only feelings and no operation. It's actually not like that. I just think that because every situation requires nuance and different gears, sometimes I'm not at that gear and he has it, and sometimes he's not there and I have it. So I think we're a good balance of that requirement. And as I said, it requires two things. It requires process and structure. It requires learning from mistakes and improving them and then taking that forward, and also onboarding critical feedback. I actually think we end up doing it in the same way, but we interpret it and express it differently. So that's the only outcome. And I also think, not specifically answering your question, but there is also a massive element that Jun and I have improved on, and that is critical feedback. If you've done something wrong, you shouldn't feel like you need to be perfect, because you're not. But I think the mantra that we have is you do need to learn from it, right? Like whatever that is, it's a mistake. If you were just like not the best person and you handled something badly, okay, that's fine. Like, what are you going to do next time to make yourself a better leader? What are you going to do, to hear someone else or take a different viewpoint? And I think that June has taught me a very good lesson in a lot of my blind spots. And hopefully I've done the same for him. And it just becomes like a really strong unit. So that's the way I kind of interpret it. What are your thoughts, June?
Yeah, I would say, not really answering your question 100%, but where our differences that are not able to be pinpointed have worked is I'm more client focused and Justin's more team focused. Doesn't mean that we're not integrated or we don't mix, but I generally will take the viewpoint of how does this impact our clients? What is our client seeing on this? Where Justin flips the narrative and he's like, okay, what is our team seeing on this? How are our team feeling about this? So when you put those two together and we say, okay, let's critically discuss an issue, we've got opposing views in a good way. And we're like, okay, where's the middle ground here? How do we get to the best point here with these two on either side? How do I make sure that the client gets the best outcome from the agency? How do I make sure the client's honored? Justin saying, well, how do we make sure the staff are honored? How do we make sure the people actually doing the job are aligned with exactly what's going to be happening or how the decision is going to be doing? And I think as we take that through each thing we're doing, it gets disseminated down. We honor the client, but not at the expense of the team. And we praise the team and we want the team to do their best job, but not at the expense of the client. And so once you put those two together, I think we've got to a place where, I mean, we've just done a director's trip, which is essentially, I'm actually based in Mauritius most of the time. So I'll fly down to South Africa and we'll go visit 3 of the main provinces there, and we'll see our clients in person for 2-3 hours, and we'll address any problems, making sure we're building relationship, making sure everything's smooth, making sure we're aligned with them. And we've just come back from a trip where like everything was amazing. All the feedback was amazing. Your team are doing an incredible job and we are happy. So when we get that kind of feedback, that ticks both Justin and my box. The client's happy. First of all, happy client means the agency is doing a good job. But the team, the feedback we got from the team was incredible. Our clients are basically saying like, this specific person is incredible. We found them an extension of our team. We have no issues with them whatsoever. They're actually more helpful than some of our internal staff. And for us to get feedback like that, it's like, geez, from a leadership perspective, and again, not to just praise leadership, we went straight back to the team and said, you guys are incredible. Thank you so much for what you're doing. We've taken them out for lunch. We've done everything to honor the team as a whole. And then coming back in, Justin, our critical feedback is like, well, this is what all this hard work that we keep doing. When we say that we're doing well from a point of view of a leadership team and really pushing into the team, that's the outcome of it. It's not that we got an award from somewhere to say we had great leadership. No, great leadership came from the team are very happy and the clients are very happy. That's success to me.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, from the external parties, one from your customers, you see this perspective from the customer, but also from your team, you get a feedback. You did a great job, and I mean, this is what you want. What you want to reach. You want happy clients, happy employees, because then you know your agency is working as it should be.
Yeah. I think another important point, and I think Joan said it very eloquently, and he said it very well, is the feedback loops between client side and team are sometimes opposing, right? Sometimes agencies in general, in my opinion, one side wins with the other side kind of losing. That's how it is, right? So if a client is super happy, because your internal team are overworking, or they've done too much work, or they're over servicing. And then that means that client's super happy. So the scales are always kind of balancing on one side and generally towards the client. And so I think we've done a very good job of obviously having very good outputs, very high standards, but also making sure that the team, they feel rewarded and they don't feel like they're losing on this outcome. They feel like they're invested because they want to be invested. A lot of our approach to leadership is, very hands off. In a lot of, we give a lot of autonomy. We don't like to micromanage. It's not our style at all. We get involved when we have to get involved. Otherwise, if we don't get involved, we trust the team and we trust the people to do their job. Otherwise, why did we hire them, right? It's like, you are the expert at your role. And if you do your job well and there's no complaints, perfect. If you hire wrong, then you need to micromanage, because then someone's not delivering. Someone's not doing the work that they need to do. And I think that those are some seriously important nuances in terms of, as Dewan said, client side and also on the team operational side, and trying to find that marriage.
Yeah. I mean, it's vice versa. The team trusts you in order if something they have to discuss with you, and the other side, you trust them that they're doing a great job, that
Correct.
they're doing what is asked from them. And on the other side, you have also what Dewan mentioned with the transparency. So the clients gave you the feedback, yes, your person or A does a great job. And you don't stop from this. You just don't say, just thank you. You go then to the person A and says, hey, I just got a feedback from our client. You did a great job. So it's transparency, and most important, also the communication that needs to be, I think needs to be open in order to create this environment of trust, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah, agreed.
So as I understood right now, everything is going into the right direction. But I also believe you had some challenges. I mean, everybody struggled with COVID, with their agency or their company. So how does the leadership look for you when you have some challenges like with COVID? How did you tackle this with your agency when this with COVID started?
Yeah, I can answer that because Justin joined us, I think, just after COVID, or the main part of it. That was our solution, bringing in Justin. But on a serious note, we had just moved into an office in 2019, because our staff, we had got to about 8 to 10 staff, and they were saying to us, coffee shops, co-working spaces are great, but we want more collaboration with each other. So we opened an office. Luckily, most people were in the same area. So we opened an office and we had everyone together. And then COVID hit, and we're in South Africa at the time. And the restrictions there eliminated us being able to go into the office altogether. So for about 4 or 5 months, we're paying for an office that stood open. Thereafter, as the restrictions lessened, you could have 2 or 3 people in at one stage, and you could have 5 or 6 people. So as that was opened, we tried we opened the office to anyone and said, who wants to go? Do you want to have a roster? Do you want to go in? A lot of people, especially ones with smaller kids, didn't want to go in, understandably. They wanted to protect their families. So we said, no problem. This is by no means forcing anyone. And that's our general feel, is not to enforce rules, but to allow people to have options and they can select. And so about 3 or 4 people started going in. And as COVID kind of passed and the restrictions lessened, more and more people came in. But then it got to a point in 2021 where our lease came up for renewal. And so at that stage, I think Justin had just joined us. And we basically said to the team, do you guys still want an office? This is completely up to you. This is not us saying we only had an office for the staff. Now, if you don't want to have an office, we're okay with that. And about 80% of the staff said, no, they actually don't want to be in an office anymore. They're not keen. Again, circumstances have changed. We all went through a pandemic. So at that point, we said, okay, no office. Like I was saying, it was also around the point where Justin joined us. And he's based in Cape Town, which is on the west coast of South Africa. We were currently in Durban, which is on the east coast. And Durban, I think it's like the third biggest city or province in South Africa from like a commerce perspective. But we were already starting to struggle to find digital marketing people in Durban anyway. And at that stage, having an office, it was kind of like an unspoken rule of we have an office in Durban, find people in Durban because we want them in the office. And I'd say one of the big learnings we had from a leadership team was once we eliminated the office and we eliminated that like the confining of ourselves, of our own mindset, because we could have done this at any stage before, but it was just out of like we're in that place, so you did it kind of thing. As soon as we removed the office, our HR lady started finding people in Cape Town and in other parts of South Africa who were extremely talented, but didn't want to be in an office either. And a lot of the other agencies in South Africa were forcing them into offices. So when we just put that aside and said, okay, well, how do we best facilitate what our staff need? And again, Justin championed this when he came in. He was saying, well, but why do you guys do that? Like, he started challenging these kinds of concepts. Why don't we have someone in Cape Town? I'm there, and like, we're not working in any different way or form. So we then started getting more people. Subsequently, our team is mostly in Cape Town, not because Justin's there. We still don't have an office, and the team doesn't necessarily meet up that often, but they are just based on the west coast of South Africa. And we found some great talent down there, and people are really happy to be working remote because we're a fully remote agency. We work on international and local clients, so they're getting a really holistic view. Plus, they have the leadership that Justin and I think is really good, and from what we're hearing from clients and the staff, they're really enjoying the way that we're doing it. So that's why I say at the moment, I think we found a really good sweet spot. Like, we're really balancing this well between the two clients and staffing side, and just really trying to push into where things are going now, as I'm sure you're aware, with digital marketing, cookies disappearing, AI taking over, machine learning a thing of the past, all these new content modes coming out. Like, we're having to navigate all those spaces as we're pushing forward, but having a strong team behind us and being this remote team where we can find people anywhere, if anything changes, we are adaptable now. And Justin and I being cohesive, we're able to make decisions fairly quickly, and able to push into whatever space comes along as we move forward on this journey.
Yeah. Those are very good points. It's actually quite interesting to see. So the way I kind of like envisioned, or through my lens of when we were going through that period, was when I came to the company, the word that we would use is that it was not flexible, as Dewan kind of alluded to, because we were stuck in an office and that was the way of working, right? And we didn't really understand how we were going to transcend our ability to give our clients the best for our clients in any environment. And that was quite new and novel. But the process was quite immature, right? Because it hadn't been done before. And so to mature that process required effectively what are the bedrock of our ethos now: hiring the right people, doing it for the right reasons, and doing it responsibly. And those values transcend because of like the bedrock of the hard work we put in, because we were kind of dismantling a business on its principles and reestablishing it on new principles. And that, even at the time we didn't know it, it was actually kind of the cornerstone of the values and goals and what we were trying to get out of the company going forward, and in a healthy way. You don't always have to go fast to be correct. You can go slow and get it correct and create those building blocks. So that was also quite a foundation of getting past a lot of the problems that, as you in your question, how we got through tough times, how we got through COVID, and how we got through some loss. It was really off the bedrock of creating the correct hires with the correct ethos. And effectively, I would say, when the chips were down, we were there for each other.
Nice. Sounds awesome what you just explained, how it went. So you took this challenge that you had and made an opportunity out of it. So right now you solved several things. We all know how hard it is to recruit the right people, to find the right people. And now with this flexible office policy that you can work from remote, it's much easier also to find people. But nevertheless, I think the onboarding process, how does it look for the onboarding process? I'm just curious, because I know for the office, it's quite easy. They come, you welcome them, they have chit chat, they meet the team members. So how are you handling then the onboarding process when new joiners come into the office? Do you have like weekly meetings? How do you lead your team through every week? I mean, I guess you have like weekly or monthly meetings. Can you elaborate on this a bit?
You want to go for it, yeah?
Yeah, sure. So we, like I said, we have that HR lady. So our first process was to replicate an in-office environment online. So we have a full onboarding process where they get their laptop, their screens, whatever. And again, there's a checklist. It's like, what do you want? What's going to make you most comfortable? If you want something, we'll add it there. It's like, again, as if you're in an office, how do you want to work? What can we facilitate? And so we'll make their home office or their work office, whether they work as comfortable as possible. They then go through a whole lot of onboarding steps. So they meet the initial team. So for argument's sake, if they're in the SEO team, they'll meet the head of SEO, they'll meet the other team members with inside SEO. We then have this like 1 hour session where the team all jumps on a call and we all meet the new person. And it's a point where that new person can communicate who they are, what they are, all those things, and the team can ask them any questions. And it's really done in a joking manner. We're quite light-hearted as a team, so we make them feel as comfortable as possible, which is always quite nice for them, and they feel like they've met the whole team. At least everyone's put a name to the face as we start. And then, every week we have internal meetings being paid media and SEO meetings. So separately, the whole team meets together for an hour and they go through everything. So they start to get involved quite quickly. Justin also meets with the team once a week. So he'll actually speak to the people every single week and they can address any problems they have. So they always have a direct line if they don't want to reach out at some point. Like I said, we try to make it as comfortable for them as possible. So if they didn't want to do it in a team session or reach out to somebody directly, they'll always have a session with them, which is always quite nice. And then once a month, we actually do have a company meeting, which the whole company sits on, and we basically unpack everything. Again, the theme for that meeting is transparency. We want the team to understand where we at from a sales perspective, finance perspective, how the teams are working, people leaving, people joining, and that will obviously be discussed. And inside that meeting, it's also worth saying that we have this company shout out section, and it actually takes up the most amount of time at the moment, being like 20-25 minutes, where each team member gets an opportunity to shout out another person for something specific, for something not specific, a whole department, the whole company. And the team have really pushed into it, where they're really communicating how they feel. And it variously does happen when people work, a PPC member works with an SEO member that week. They have quite a lot to communicate. But nonetheless, they still have quite a bit. And it's become a culture of like, shout out someone. Like, you worked well with somebody, so let's communicate it. And the team loves getting shouted out and they love being involved in that kind of stuff. So from a culture perspective, they're feeling quite cohesive there. But that's kind of our process at the moment, and it seems to be working really well. We've got a company WhatsApp channel that you don't have to join if you don't want to, and everyone's joined it. We have Slack channels where you can have one-on-one conversations with anyone. You can have huddles. And then again, we have our standard HR meetings where we'll have a monthly catch-up to ensure that you understand your role. There can be critical feedback to you, and you can ask any questions from that perspective. So inside a month, if you are a new joiner, you get quite a few touch points as you go along. And then again, if we are feeling maybe somebody needs a little bit more time or attention, then Justin and I will step in and actually try have an extra meeting with them as comfortable as possible, a virtual coffee or something like that. And then last point is Justin actually, like I said, he is in Cape Town and quite a few of our team members are there. He often meets with them in person, quite casual. Nice. It can either be a lunch or a co-working space day, generally a lunch, because it's the team's able to say what they want to do. But again, it's merely there for everyone just to touch base with each other, physically see another human, somebody you speak to online all the time. And that's really helped. And I was there about a week or two ago, and I had one of these lunches with them. And it's really nice just to be together again and to be able to share a meal together, which is always great.
Yeah. And add to that process, I think a lot of going back to that original onboarding, right? I think that was one of the original problems that Dewan and I had to solve, is like, how do we effectively hire someone without them feeling like they're wading through, a lot of water and just treading water. So we actually really, I'm going to go back to the immature to the mature, because the process was immature because we hadn't figured it out. We hadn't ironed it out. And I think over the period of time, the months and the years, that was a big objective. So hiring the right people, getting the HR responsibility. How do you get someone to feel like they're a part of the team when they can't physically touch them or see them or hear them? How do you effectively give them all the documents and all of the transmission of information quite seamlessly over that period of time while they're being onboarded? Who do they need to speak to? Is it me? Is it HR? Is it the team leaders? Is it the other team members? And so we had all these cadence meetings that are set up primarily in the first week or two. Here are our systems with HR. Here is Dewan and Justin. Here are the clients that would be under your portfolio. Here are your team members. And so it was very structured in that way, so they knew exactly how to build. And going on from that, maybe referencing some of the better habits. You don't take all the habits, but some of the better habits from businesses, referencing books like, Scaling Up or the Rockefeller Habits. A lot of those nuggets, I felt personally from my experience, were very helpful. So they required regular cadences. Like, we never had regular meeting cadences. We didn't break up PPC and SEO with, weekly cadences or bi-weekly cadences. We also we talk about the presentation being as it was never there. We never had a company presentation that had a document. There were no shout outs. So we structured, or we wanted to implement things that were very positive from the agencies we had worked with before. So we introduced people first. That means shout out. We want that to be the main focus. If there is bad times and we're not doing well, guess what? We're going to share that with the team. And if we're doing well, we're going to share that with the team. And so we kind of just wanted to create that holistic environment where people trust us. People, when you get complimented, when you get good feedback, that needs to be shouted from the hilltops. When we have negative feedback, which we have to deal with a lot of the time, that's behind closed doors. We never talk about that in front of other people. But when you are being complimented, when you are being praised, that goes straight up to everyone and that environment encourages a lot of positivity.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, also the processes help you with your leadership, as I understood. So this onboarding process or other processes, they are essential for you to do your leadership, to be transparent, to get them in this ethos, as you explained, into the values of Kaomi Marketing, so that they understand directly from the beginning when they onboard, okay, I can wish what I want for working with, because this is probably something they never experienced before. At a corporation, they just get their laptop and their things. At yours, they get something more,
Yeah, so I think going back to those core principles of being honest and being a good person is just like, we just want to be straight shooters, right? What you see is what you get. There's no hidden agenda, and you do matter. I feel like if you make it into Kaomi, we are taking you into this environment where we trust you, which means that ostensibly you have trust right from the beginning. You break trust if you do something, but you are trusted. I think a lot of other agencies, and I'm not sure if Dewan can agree with me, but effectively you're not trusted. You have to earn trust, and they don't give you trust off the bat. They're effectively going to micromanage you. They're effectively going to put in principles that are going to make you feel like you are not trusted and you have to prove yourself every single day. So that kind of, for me, was the opposite of the leadership style that I wanted and Dewan wanted. And we just wanted it to be a lot more real, trusting. And if you get the right people, you can create that environment where people don't abuse it. They actually thrive in it. The right people, which are talented, mature individuals. So that were two of the key principles of hiring. And it goes back to the environment Dewan and I created. Dewan and I, we play around with each other a lot. We're not always serious. We get stuff done and we are very competent. But at the same time, we make lots of jokes. We love each other's company, and we generally have this warm environment where we're like, we don't need to be serious, right? Like all the time. And I think that that's the environment that I would recommend for anyone who wants to be in an agency. You want to have different gears, right? You want to be serious, you want to get stuff done, and you want to be a high performer, but they are not conditional on not being fun, being a good person, and making friends. The two are very cohesive in the right environment.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice expression, because my next question was like, what would you recommend to somebody that would start an agency or lead an agency? I think this is like a nice recommendation. And also what you mentioned at the end is your authenticity, like you're authentic.
Yeah.
You're not just only competent and so on. You also joke around and so on, so people can see you are in your natural environment. You enjoy working for this company. You enjoy collaborating with your employees, and this is also, I think, really, really important, that this entire Kaomi marketing works like it should be.
Yeah, and again, I'm gonna emphasize one thing from my perspective, and that is, there is a lot of habits. There are a lot of requirements that come from leadership that just stem down, because that is how the business operates. And genuinely, I get up every day and I enjoy working for this company. And it's also because I get to work with Dewan, right? So we will go have a beer on the beach together, and equally so, we will solve the hardest problems on agency issues together. So we have that ability to get both of those done, and they're not mutually exclusive. And again, genuinely, that comes through. That comes through that if Dewan was ever in trouble, I would be there for him. If I was ever in trouble, he would be there for me. And if you can create that culture of, that's the hardest thing, being authentic, finding someone you can take this road with, or people to take that road with, that for me is the superpower. Now, it's also the hardest thing to find, because sometimes in my life, I've been very unlucky. I've had very bad leadership. I've had very good leadership. I've rarely ever found, and it's probably going to be on one hand, you can count the amount of people you can trust in business genuinely. And when you do, hold on, because it doesn't happen very often. And again, from my perspective, that's how I feel, and I would recommend people kind of look for that authenticity. What are your thoughts, Shane?
Yeah, I would say exactly what Justin's saying. If you can find somebody, which is the hardest part, that you completely can trust and you can work together, that's, to me, a no-brainer. Like I've said, from hearing other people that run agencies on their own, it's extremely difficult and it's extremely lonely, which makes it very hard to try scale. An agency, if somebody asked me, should they open it, they are difficult. They may seem fun, and they are extremely fun if you get things right and you can align with the right staff and the right clients. But a lot of hard work has to go into it. There are good days, there are bad days. If you are not sold into marketing, then every day is going to be an uphill battle for you. But like Justin was saying, when you have people that support you, when you love what you do, and when you are aligned with your clients, which is a really big thing that we have, like alignment with clients and ensuring that we actually believe in what they're doing, it makes every day a joy to work on them, and it makes you want to come to work. And again, I think that's Justin and I feel that, but our team feels that. We had an example of a week or two ago when I was in South Africa with Justin, where a client addressed one of our team members in a way, and we're like, from the start, we both just looked at that message and we're like, no, this is not how we operate. This is not what we accept. And we address it in that manner, because that's not a way. Our team needs to know that we have their back, like we said, with Justin and I focusing on the two different channels. The team needs to know we have their back, and the clients need to know that we're pushing for their best interest all the time. So as long as you can constantly show that, and in every example that it comes up, you address it in that same way, and you're consistent and you're transparent about it, you can create a really good environment. And I think we've managed to find that balance at the moment. And so in starting an agency, you have to develop all of those things, which is stuff that we've figured out over these years, which can often now, like just talking about it, it's like, oh, we figured that out, that's easy. But it took us 8 years to get here, and we're in the trenches the whole time, figuring this stuff out, working through it, sleepless nights, all of those things.
We're still figuring it out.
We're still figuring half of it out.
Everybody.
Yeah. So it is a difficult one, but yeah, like I was saying, going back to the point, if you can find somebody that you can trust, I always think a partnership or people being together is the strongest cohesive unit you can have. and it's the most fun. And so I would definitely say, if you're looking for it, try to find somebody that you can connect with that's going to drive this for the long term with you, and that is service orientated, because again, this is human to human contact. They got to love people. They got to love interacting with people, because if you don't, then you're setting yourself up for failure in an agency.
Yeah, and maybe I can just also sum up the last points. If it's advice for agency owners or individuals, is some of the worst advice I ever got was one of the managers or one of the owners that I was dealing with, they literally said, I cannot be friends with the people I work with. And I thought to myself, I disagree with that. You can have mutual relationships and respect, and you can actually enjoy people's company, because you probably spend, I think my wife jokes that I'm married to Dewan more than I am her, but effectively you need to be able to have different gears and be a person of depth and integrity, and that requires having different abilities to know how to use information and whom and when. And I thought that was the worst piece of advice I've ever gotten. People will get that advice. Focus on the job, don't make friends, and then continue. The two are not mutually exclusive. For me, that's completely incorrect information. You need to you can be friends with people, you can be genuine with people, and you can also be a good leader. You can make tough decisions. You can be, you have to be making the correct decisions for the business, and you can also be a good person. They're not mutually exclusive. And I think that was a big takeaway for me, is don't take that advice. That is the wrong advice. That's how you end up being lonely. That's how you end up not getting all the things that you want. The next piece of advice I would give is having a proper cadence setup. Set up your meetings that you are frequently with your teams, especially if they're virtual, right? Make the correct decisions. Is it going to be an SEO meeting? Is it a PPC? Is it a monthly presentation? Have regular cadences where people can expect those meetings to be there, and that they are effectively accountable for those meetings. Not only are they accountable for those meetings, they want to be intrinsically a part of those meetings. So they are important in the decision making. So that is also a transfer of power that's very important. Make sure that people have buy-in in decisions, because they are definitely going to follow their own advice if they have a seat at the table, right? And then the last one for me is never stop learning, ever, right? I mean, that is the absolute best thing you can do. And the more you learn and the better you become and the smarter you becoming in a multitude of disciplines, the better leader you become. Just because you become educated and you can make a decision and an opinion on an actual point of view that is grounded in reality. And I think that for me is a big one. Don't stop learning, and be humble, right? If someone has a problem, don't ask why they have a problem. Ask why they have a problem with you internally. What is the issue here? Am I the issue? Are they the issue? Or is there a problem in the approach to that individual? And you must try and adapt to that situation the best you can, because you're always going to deal with a multitude of personalities. And as June and I know, dealing with people is definitely the hardest skill. And if you can get that right, it is also the most rewarding skill. And I guess those are just some nuggets I would leave you with.
But this is a really nice summary, really good advices for somebody that wants to start an agency or that is struggling right now with their employees. I mean, really nice points that you just made. And I mean, it's great insight from you guys that you gave us here in this podcast. Where can we find you, by the way? I'm checked, so kaomimarketing.com is your website. When they want some online marketing services, and you can be found, I guess, fully on LinkedIn, I guess.
Yeah, we're on LinkedIn and a few of the other social channels, Kaomi Marketing.
Yeah. June's slightly more popular than me on LinkedIn, but and also if they want to get directly in contact with June, his cell phone number will be available.
Yes,
anytime.
Yes. I mean, I will put in our show notes. I will put your website and also LinkedIn. I will put yours first, Justin. Maybe you get a bit more followers. Let's see.
I'm happy with that.
And also, if you want to put your phone number, of course, we can put your phone number there as well. No, thank you for the great insights on mastering agency leadership. I think there was a lot into for listeners of the podcast and viewers on YouTube that can take something for them from you. And thank you very much. Have a great day, and hopefully to see you soon in our podcast. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much. Cheers, Ed.
Thank you.